Hello and welcome to another tape recording video, and this time we're going to be looking at the EL3511 from Philips, and this is a machine from the mid-1950s when home tape recorders were a fairly new thing, and this is one of Philips's first offerings. It's not the first offering as a home machine, but it certainly is the first one which has multiple tape speeds. And I thought we'd go through this machine. It's got a number, typical for machines of that era, it's got a number of weird quirks that you wouldn't see in more modern machines. And I think that quite simply has to do with the fact that tape recorders were in their infancy in those days, and the odd combination of knobs and push buttons and sliders on this machine was not atypical for a machine of that day. More modern machines have a much cleaner control interface. So we'll go through this machine by simply switching it on and using it. So over here we have a volume control which doubles as an on-off switch, and you might hear the little whir, a little whir from the motor as it comes on. In order to actually enable the motor to operate the machine, this button has to be pressed and this slider pushed towards the slid towards the right tape speed, which is in this case 3 3/4 of an inch per second. The other option is a slower tape speed of 1 7/8. This is also typical of machines of that era. Originally, home tape recorders had a tape speed of 7.5 inches per second, but as tape formulations improved and tape recorders improved, they discovered that they could use lower tape speeds and still get an acceptable fidelity. And that also meant that they shrunk the tape reels from the original 7-inch on most of the earliest machines to 5 inches here on this one. Later on, it was the 7-inch reel came back again because it of course offers longer playing times. But on a machine like this, the actual chassis becomes quite compact due to the small reel size. Of course, in this machine, the compactness is lost because we have this enormous case here with its generous ventilation grills. But what we're going to do here is we're going to try and get the machine to play back a little. First thing here we'll notice is that in order to put the tape on, we have to unscrew a holder here. Now this doesn't seem to be strictly necessary because there are flutes on the tape reel holder here which engages with the trident and the tape spool, but they've added these extra screw-on tape holders as security. That would have been typical for a battery-operated portable machine, but this is a mains-operated one. That's a bit odd. So we'll thread the tape through, nothing out of the ordinary there. And to enable playback, we use this switch here. This is simply a rotary switch with 2 positions. The tape is enabled here, and I can see here that I've threaded incorrectly because it's twisted half a turn, so we'll quickly rectify that by threading the tape once more. This machine has quite a large head cover, considering that it's here we are. Okay, so if we turn the tape on, that makes it run, and that's the only 2 positions of this switch. That's the only purpose of it. If we want to wind the tape forward, we use this push button here. And if we just press it down, it springs back automatically. But if we press it down and let it latch by pulling it slightly forward, it'll wind forward without us having to hold it down. Similarly, and that means to stop it, you just press it back and it springs up. And the button on the left, not surprisingly, does the opposite. It rewinds the tape. So to actually play it back, we'll keep the volume fairly low to start with, and we just turn this one here, like this, and nothing happens. Because there's a pause switch here, which oddly enough is not part of the main control panel, it's sticking out here at the side. And the reason I believe is that this is actually intended to be remote controlled. There's a holder here for some sort of a cable, and I believe that means that you can actually remote control a pause on this using a mechanical foot switch of some sort. We pull this forward, and this brings the tape to move. There's still no sound from the tape, and that's because we need to press this switch here, which is the playback switch. Now, we can't press that while the tape is running, so we need to do that first, then we can start the tape. And there we get the music playing. And if I want to stop it temporarily, I use the pause switch. If I want to make it go again, I let it go again. fidelity from this machine is not bad considering its age, and also the fact that this machine has actually not been renovated or had any pieces replaced as far as I know. So all the rubber parts are the original ones from 1955 or whenever the machine was made. And given that, it's quite impressive that it runs as smoothly and nicely as it does. If we want to rewind the tape, we press this button here, and as you see, there's an interesting movement here as the reels slide around a bit, probably to engage some internal mechanism, and that was probably the easiest way to do it, to move the reel holders rather than to move some internal idlers. If we wanted to play tape back at a slower speed, well, then we have to press this button here, slide this over to the other side, and if we now play the tape, it goes at half speed. So if we had a recording made at this speed, it would sound fine. This machine winds slower when the tape speed is lower. I put the tape speed at a higher position. It winds faster, which is also some machines were like that. It's not an ideal design, but probably cheaper than doing it any other way. If we want to record, well, we've got to release this button, and we'd press this slightly red one on the left, which causes this magic eye indicator here to light up. Unfortunately, this one has been replaced with a rather dim one. It's, the original one lit up brightly and is now serving its use in a radio, but this one was the one from the radio, and it's rather dim, but it actually still works if we plug in a microphone. And the button here is a bit sluggish because probably of hardened grease, but if we ease it up a little bit, it comes back up. So there we have it. The EL3511 from around 1955 with its slightly weird combination of controls. Hopefully this video can be useful if you ever find one of those machines and you actually want to use it for anything. Okay, thank you for watching, and goodbye.